everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Design Cinema. Wow, it feels pretty weird to say that. This is Feng speaking, and we are at episode 110. And yes, it's been a long time, 2 years to be precise, since I uploaded a new episode. So, for those following the channel, thank you for coming back. And if you're new here, welcome. Today's episode is going to run pretty long because it has been 2 years and we have a lot to catch up on. So for those who just joining us for the first time, the way I do design cinema is pretty similar to a classroom environment in which I don't really do any slick edits, simply because I don't have the time to edit these videos. I just have to record them as I go here. And since I'm haven't done a recording in a while, I'm probably pretty rusty here, and I just really don't have time to record these over and over. So yeah, today's episode might be a little rough, but we'll see. I think as I go forward here, it'll get better and better. So yeah, let's go and get started. Today's topic is about AI. This is a really, really big topic. In the past year, a lot of people have been DMing, sending me messages, emails, so forth, asking me about my opinion regarding AI. So today we'll take a pretty deep dive about this topic and really discuss what it could do to the industry and how it affects everything, especially us as designers. But before I get into that, I do want to share with you guys a little bit of what I've been up to in the last year or so, and also discuss a little bit about where design cinema is headed. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right. Notice my slick editing software, straight up Photoshop. So I do stuff the old school way. I really don't have time to learn all the new slick software, editing, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do stuff the old school way. And if it works, right? All right. So let's first talk about the school. What the heck is going on with FCD school? So what happened was in 2022, everything's going fine. Our students are doing some of the best work I've ever seen. Our pipeline is really mature. Our intakes were good. Everything's good. However, the building that we were in was sold to a new landlord. And at the time, we were already paying a lot in rent, a lot in rent, okay? Because we have a very large space, as you can see here. We have 3 huge classrooms. We have some common areas. This is a big facility. So obviously the rent is very high, and we are also located in a pretty nice location in Singapore. So that all factors to a high rent. And our build out is also expensive. I do a lot of custom designs here. I want my office to feel nice. So we have custom tables, hangout areas, and everything. So anyways, the new landlord came in and wanted to double the rent into 7 figures. Okay, and that's a lot of money. So, and without offering anything new, right? If you're gonna raise the rent, maybe you could do something to make the facility even better. But no, it's just straight up doubling the rent. So at that point, I had a few options. One was to look for a new location, but that entails looking for something this big and finding space this big and also centrally located. Centrally located is quite difficult. And on top of that, we have to redo everything. We have to rebuild it out, and that's going to take a couple of months to design, to build, and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to take some time. The other option was to simply maybe buy a building, because if I'm going to pay that much in rent, maybe I'll just buy a building. But that's also a huge financial upfront cost. We're talking about, I'm guessing, somewhere between $7 to $10 million or something to buy a building. But it is an option we were looking into because in the long run, that actually is more beneficial. So that's all going to take some time. So while I was looking at those options, we had to put a stop into the intake, obviously, because we don't have anywhere to put the students if we don't have a place to be. Uh, so that kind of gave me an opportunity to take a break, because I haven't taken a break since I got into this industry in the mid 90s. So obviously every year I take vacations everywhere, but those generally last about a week, 2 weeks tops. And for those who freelance, you know that even if you're on vacation as a freelancer, you always get contacted by clients, or your producers are mailing you, calling you, saying on this problem, that problem, so forth. So you're never really, really on vacation. So during this time, I thought, man, this is good. This is a kind of a forced break for me. And it was great. Because for those who don't know, I run FCD School of Design in Singapore, but I also have a design firm as well, and we take on quite a bit of projects. So those two things added together, it just means that I never really get a proper break. It's always work, 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 work. So in mid 2022, I decided to just really take a break. And I'm still on a break right now, actually. So design cinema is actually one of the first few things I've been doing that's I guess work related. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So in 2022 to 23, I went traveling all over the place, and this time it was great. because it is important to share this with you guys. I know this is nothing to do with design and so forth, but we do need to talk about taking care of ourselves, right? Our health, our mental state, and everything. And taking breaks is quite important. So that's what I decided to do, to just put all work aside and just totally be in the moment, enjoy everything. And it was great. It was the most relaxing thing I've ever done in my life. So yeah, I went everywhere. There's skydiving in Dubai, and go to Japan. So I love Japan. I go there pretty much every year since 2009. The only 2 years I didn't go was during COVID, when they closed the country down, or well, the borders, I guess, in a way. But soon they opened up, I was back, right back into Japan, horseback riding in South Africa, and the Maldives Islands. If you haven't been, it's one of the best places on earth. It's just paradise on earth here. So yeah, it was great. This is some desert in near Oman, near the southeast east of Dubai, I think. And a month ago, I was in Paris, and it was actually at this event that inspired me to get back into things again, which I'll talk about in a second here, because there's so many speakers there. Some were friends that I haven't seen in a while. Some were new designers I'd never met before. Met them in person. I knew who they were, but never met them. And their talks were very, very inspirational, and it got me thinking of, I got to get back into this, man. I've been basically doing nothing for a year, so let's get back into production. So yeah, so did a lot of traveling, and I think this is also one of the few times I've been sharing some personal stuff with you guys. Design Cinema's been quite school oriented. Everything is all professional stuff, but I think sharing some of this is quite interesting for you guys to see as well. So besides that, I also did played a lot of video games. So as I was traveling, I brought my portable devices with me. So the 3DS is one of my favorite devices. I bring that everywhere with me. Switch obviously is, everyone knows the Switch. Really good little console. Got my laptop here. So if I'm on a flight, I could play some PC games and stuff. So yeah, got through a couple of my backlog. As you know, there's so many games that gets released these days that you can never play them all. There's way too many. But this did give me opportunity to just catch up on some of it. And of course, if I'm at home, I have a couple of gaming PCs in various places. So my gaming room in Singapore. Oh, why am I not drawing here? Hold on, wrong layer. Let me see here. I'm on this layer. Okay, yeah, proper. No editing over here. Everything is what you see is what you get here. Okay, let me just test on my pen. Okay, so gaming rigs and so forth. This is the room I'm actually recording Design Summer right now. So I have another gaming rig in here as well to play all these games. And yeah, I got some comments asking what games I play. So I generally play a lot of old stuff. I love the old JRPGs and so forth. So I decided to replay Chrono Cross on the Switch, which I haven't played since it came out on the PlayStation in the 90s. After finishing that, went to Chrono Trigger just to decide to finish the two series. And I finally finished The Witcher 3. It took me about, I think, 3.5 years to finish this game. Great IP, great game, great graphics, really good story. So yeah, it was fun. So, but after doing this for about a year, coming back from Paris, I think, okay, that's enough. Okay, that's enough of a break. 1 year is enough. I was kind of getting bored of just playing games all day and traveling. So it's time to get back to design cinema. And now I'm not quite ready to do FCD school yet, because that's gonna, like I mentioned before, that's a lot of work to get that stuff started again. But we'll see where it goes. Design cinema is something that's easy for me to get back into, and also there's so many new topics to discuss. When I stopped design cinema 2 years ago, I thought I've covered pretty much everything. But now, looking at where the industry is headed, especially with AI getting into the picture here, we have a lot more things to talk about. So let's first discuss some topics that I have planned for design cinema. Let's run through these real quick. So one of the first things I want to focus on is on entertainment design. So when I went to Paris, this was actually my topic, entertainment design. So I'll put those presentation on the next episode. It should be episode 111. Hopefully I'll get that up next week as well. So why entertainment design? Because in the last, I guess 5 years or so, I see this kind of shift in student work. Okay, professionals, if you're watching this, doesn't apply to you at all. This is mostly for students. Since I'm an educator, most design, actually all of our design cinema is focused towards students. So what I see in portfolios really is taking a kind of a curve here, that the content of these portfolios is neither design or entertainment. It is just regurgitated content. In fact, when I was in Paris, I had an opportunity opportunity to review a lot of student portfolios, and 99% of them were all regurgitated content. Pretty much you couldn't tell the difference between one and another. In fact, what the students are doing is what AI is doing. Everything is regurgitated. So there's nobody that stood out. I think there was one person's portfolio that kind of stood out, but everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Again, no design, not entertaining. So I want to focus on what this actually is, and this actually is closely related to all these things, which we'll talk about a little bit today, because as we dive into AI, we'll actually talk about where the weaknesses of AI stands, and it's actually a lot of this kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to focus on some storytelling stuff. We're going to talk about functional design stuff, which I haven't talked about too much in the past, but it is something we teach almost exclusively at the school, because this is hard stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that AI has a very hard time doing, which you guys will see a little bit later. Talk about user experiences. We're going to focus more on sketching and idealization, and maybe do some design challenges to give you guys some pretend projects that you could work on. So again, I'm not doing anything these days, so design cinema is a good opportunity for me and you guys to engage, maybe on some projects, and we can all do it together. It'd be kind of fun, right? So on top of that, I want to teach some Blender to you guys. So we've been doing 3D at FZD since SketchUp days, and then we moved into Blender about 5 years. Is it 5 years? 4 or 5 years ago? Whenever Blender came out. So all our students pretty much use 3D, but I've never done it on Design Cinema. So I thought I would do some fundamentals of Blender. So if you never use 3D software, especially Blender, this is a good opportunity for you to learn it, because the way I'm going to teach it is very different than Blender for to become a 3D artist, because on YouTube there are quite a bit of Blender tutorials, and in fact there's a lot of them, but almost all of them are focusing on becoming a 3D artist, right? Going to VFX, gaming, modeling for products and so forth. So they get into the very deep side of Blender, okay? And a lot of that kind of stuff we don't need for what we do, because we're concept designers. Our end product is 2D, it is not 3D. So the way you approach 3D is very different. So I will teach that, as well as how we use Blender for concept design, and that is goes really well with this thing, balancing 3D versus 2D. This is something our students have a hard time with, and we're going to discuss that, which is how much time do you actually spend in 3D, right? And versus 2D, because again, our end product is 2D. So you have to really balance how much time you're spending in 3D software. You can't be doing 3 4 days modeling something, and then the end result you don't even get to see most of the stuff that you spent time on. So again, this is a huge topic that we're going to get into. It's be pretty fun. And lastly, how to focus on some industry relevant portfolios. I've done topics like this before, but the industry has changed quite a bit. Again, especially with AI coming into the scene here. So we're gonna talk about what is gonna make you stand out in the field of safeness, because too many students these days are basically doing AI stuff, right? The stuff they're doing looks like AI. There's no content. We got to be better than that, and that's what today's topic is going to be about. Okay, how do we become better than AI? So let's move on to the next slide, and jump into our topic, which is AI. All right, here we go. All right. So we got to look at the current state of where AI is at. Okay. So I went to Pinterest and I kind of just downloaded a couple of pretty cool looking images, right? I don't want to be biased here. I don't want to just grab some crappy images and say AI sucks and whatever. No, actually, AI at a first glance is really powerful. Look at these images; they're pretty cool, right? I don't even know how it's being done, because AI apparently has problem with fingers, and this one looks pretty good. Maybe the artist edited this a little bit. I'm not too sure, but these images are all tagged AI, so I'm assuming they're AI generated. The environments obviously are, because you can see all these random mistakes everywhere inside them. But the character stuff is actually pretty good. I don't see any major mistakes at all. But these things are pretty obviously AI. So if you're coming from the outside looking into this stuff, right? If you're not in the industry and you look at this, yes, this is pretty scary. It's like, wow, this is really powerful stuff. You don't need an artist anymore. You can just do this stuff. However, if you're in the industry, especially at what I do industrial design, which is focusing mostly on hard surface stuff like planets, environments, props, anything that's kind of man-made. So I focus on. From that point of view, AI is really weak, and it probably cannot do what we do. And that's what today's episode is all about. We're gonna deep dive into what it cannot do and why. Okay, I'll give you guys a bunch of examples why that is. So we do have to look at it though, because AI is powerful. So what we have to look out for is, because it could do things like this, and if you are doing things like this, then there will be an issue. Okay, so in the current state of things, AI is very good at rendering, making beautiful images and so forth. But if you take away all the flashy stuff, behind it is actually very, very skin level. Okay, like the way I have to put it is design is very deep. It goes through the skin, to the flesh, to the bones. Okay, but what AI is doing right now is just surface level. It's just scratching the skin. However, there are many, many kind of student portfolios who are doing pretty much this type of stuff, and there's no value. Okay, and if you're in that situation, AI is a huge threat to your careers. But if you're doing actual design work, it doesn't really do anything. It's just a tool in which we're going to discuss next. Okay, but we do have to acknowledge what AI is good at. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, so companies will be using AI. In fact, some of the companies we deal with right now, I say about 50% of them are already dabbling AI where they're using AI. However, they're using AI mostly to do some exploration type of stuff. So the things I've seen AI do, let's talk about what it's good at. Okay, so it's good at generating forms. So what this means is that AI could generate really interesting forms. It seems to know how to balance them quite well, so it looks quite nice. However, it's exactly that. It's a form. Okay, and we're gonna dive deeper into this in a second because that's what a lot of students are doing as well. It's just form. There actually isn't much of a design. In fact, if you look back at the previous page here, these things you could say is sort of a design, but what they really are is a first level pass at a huge form. Okay, see, these are just forms. They don't have story. They don't have all sorts of stuff that we need to actually solve design problems. So they're just forms. Now, when it comes to characters, same thing. Beautifully rendered forms of characters. But do they have story? Do they have those type of things? Not really. Okay. And again, we're going to dive deep into that. So next, you could generate references for inspiration. It's quite good for that. In fact, we've seen clients do that these days. So there's not much difference between them getting something off of Pinterest or Google and generating something from AI because it helps us understand what's in client's mind. So the only time it becomes a problem is when they generate some really random stuff from AI. So it actually makes it worse because you don't know what the heck they want because the stuff they generate is so out there. It's just crazy, crazy stuff that you cannot actually turn into a actual design. So, but overall, it's quite beneficial for that. So it can also generate different art styles, which is fun, cartoony, realistic, and so forth. So you can kind of explore that. Not extremely helpful, but it's pretty good at it. It can also generate pretty renderings, as we have seen already. Very flashy stuff. It's pretty good at getting lighting correct and all that stuff. It does have a kind of an AI look to it, everything, but that will probably get fixed in the next year or two. But it is pretty. Okay, it could solve some basic design and art needs. And this is a big one I want to kind of spend a little bit of time talking about. So what does this mean is that some companies out there don't care. Okay, their priority is not in really good design and really good art. For example, maybe some match 3 game on mobile, right? They just need some background like a snowy mountain with some castle on it. They could just make AI backgrounds. It's free essentially for them to do that, and it serves their needs. They're not selling design in their products there, right? They're match 3 games. And those companies are definitely using that. And there's also a lot of shovelware companies that's out there making AI. Like you look go to the Switch eShop, they're probably 30% of games right now that's using AI to do their art. It's very obvious, right? The covers, the inside stuff, it's all done by AI. So, but those are companies I don't work with anyway, so they don't, it doesn't affect my job at all. However, if your content is what these companies are looking at, then yeah, that's gonna become a problem because they don't need you anymore if they could get this kind of stuff for free. Okay, so basic design, basic art needs is definitely being done by AI right now. There's even AAA companies getting into this. For example, I've seen them do use AI to make icons, some UI stuff, like health potions and these type of things. Uh, yeah, AI could do that pretty easily. Character portraits and so forth, they could generate this. But once you go into advanced design, AI cannot do it. Okay. Next is less demanding project. These two are kind of related, but same thing. Like I said, if they don't really care about design as a selling point in their products, then they will use AI to solve the problem because it is a tool, and companies will use tools that's cost effective to them. So, an AI right now is pretty popular, and they're going to use it. Okay, and this is a pretty cool one. It could be used by non-artists. So this is it's a double-edged sword here. So it's good because some directors could use AI. And just last year, I had a director who just generated a crap load of AI stuff for me to look at. In a way, it's good because you can see sort of what they're thinking. Because before they could only do little thumbnail sketches on a napkin, but now they could generate these these images, I guess. But the bad side is that again, it's just, sometimes it's just really out there. You don't know what the heck they want. Like crazy, almost like you're on high on drugs type of images here, and you have to really narrow it down to like what actually do you want from this image, because what you're showing me is just crazy, right? But it is cool. I've seen script writers using this as well. So if they're writing a scene, they kind of have something in their mind. They could now use AI to kind of prompt some of that stuff out and show it to us in a meeting. So in a way, it's beneficial because it's just trying to narrow down the what we're trying to do. Okay, AI could also source from millions and millions of images online. We as designers and artists could only get so much stuff from the internet, whereas the AI could just source from millions. So obviously, right now they're taking a lot of the stuff from existing images, and there's a lot of copyright issues dealing with that. But that'll probably eventually get solved, I think, as they train AI to be, I guess, self-correcting and so forth. So we'll see if this gets better or not. Okay, it can also be trained on the fundamentals of art, which AI has already been done. So you could train it how perspective works, how composition works, how lighting works. And this is also a big one that I will focus next week on episode 111 on, because as students of design, we have to learn this as well. But AI could now do this. So if your portfolio essentially is solving fundamentals and then doing first level form design, okay, which I circled up here, then you are not doing anything better than what AI could do. Okay, we gotta go beyond that. Okay, fundamentals is the base stuff, right? If you listen to these design cinema before, you heard me talking or the analogy of basketball, right? Dribbling a ball is the fundamental. You have to know how to dribble a ball in order to play basketball. So, but that doesn't make you a good player. Okay, making a good player means you know how the game works. So AI could do fundamentals really well. If you do fundamentals really well, it doesn't mean anything because it's just fundamentals. We have to use this to do actual good content. Okay, so AI is also pretty good at correcting mistakes. For example, right now you cannot do hands well, but I'm pretty sure they'll get that corrected within the next half a year or a year or so. Um, it's cost effective to a certain degree. Right now, AI, most of it is kind of free, was very cheap, but eventually they'll probably start charging for it. But the cost is still probably lower than for these studios to hire a designer. And that's a problem, right? That's what a lot of people say, oh, AI is going to take our jobs and so forth. But don't worry, this episode, we're going to discuss why it's not going to. In fact, in the studio that I handle in my design studio, we saw more jobs come in as a result of AI because these companies are using AI to try to do some stuff, find out that AI cannot solve actual design problems, and then they come to us to solve those problems. And we're not cheap. Okay, my studio is very expensive, and these studios are still coming to us, giving us project anywhere from 4 to half a year long projects, very very expensive projects that we are doing. So AI hasn't affected us at all. It has taken nothing away. In fact, like I said, it's actually given us more work than before. Okay, and AI could become a visual tool, which is yeah, which I think is eventually become. Okay, so let's look at the next slide here. So I've been here, like I mentioned, since mid 90s, right? And I've seen a lot of tools come and go, and each time some new tool arrives, it disrupts the industry, and it always goes through three stages. The first stage is that's cheating, okay? And then it becomes everyone starts using it, and it becomes if you're not using it, your career is not gonna last, right? So let's talk about, for example, Photoshop, right? In the late 90s is when certain designers, myself included, start transitioning from traditional into digital media. And at first, I remember people online were saying, "Oh, that's cheating." Yeah, I remember in what '99, I was working at Blur Studio at the time, and there was an artist named Chris Leichner. He used to stop by quite a bit. So he was a comic book colorist at the time, working with Joe Mad on the Battle Chaser series, and he was doing a lot of his coloring in Photoshop. And I remember him telling him like, some of the fans were like, "Oh, that's cheating. You gotta color everything traditionally. Using a digital media is cheating and so forth." But of course, as everyone started using Photoshop, then it became the other way, which is, oh, if you're not doing digital media, your career is over, right? Traditional media artists are dead. So, and that is true to a certain extent. If you're doing actual professional work in today's industry, you're gonna have to use digital media because traditional is too slow. You could do traditional stuff at home for your personal projects, that's all fine. But in professional realms, pretty much everyone's digital, right? So this tool went woo, woo, up and down, right? So it's crazy. And ZBrush, same thing. This is around 2003, 2004, somewhere around that time when ZBrush was released. And at first it was, oh, that's cheating, right? Sculpting is about traditional clay. using this software is all cheating. And then everyone started using it, and it then becomes like, oh, if you're not using ZBrush, you're going to be out of a job, right? All traditional sculpting is it's over. But of course, that's not the case here. Next is 3D. 3D software before SketchUp and Blender and all these kind of things, it was only Autodesk, Alien Wavefront, Maya, and 3D Max, all of which were very, very expensive. So 3D wasn't in the hands of most artists unless you pirate this kind of stuff. But yeah, they're quite expensive. But when SketchUp came out, it was bought by Google, right? They made it free. So at our school, we started to teach it right away. And same thing that happened. Remember the up and down that happened? I remember posting some of the behind the scenes stuff from our students, right? So we taught students how to do SketchUp and use SketchUp to build some of the basic structures, and then we draw over, right? Something that we all do today. But this is the mid 2000s or something like that, right? Very new. And when we post this kind of behind the scenes stuff on Facebook, there was so many people saying, "Oh, that's cheating, man! You know, using 3D is cheating. You should be drawing for reals, you know, blah blah blah." You know, and then everyone started using 3D, and it becomes like, oh, traditional fundamental skills is over, right? We don't need it no more. 3D is going to solve everything. Everyone could become an artist now because 3D is easy to learn. We can all do design. But obviously, that's not the case either, okay? And then in about 2012, 2013, photo bashing becomes a thing. You guys remember that? Photo bashing and speed painting, right? Again, went through the same kind of loop, right? In the beginning, it was like, oh, that cloud's a photo, right? Here's one of mine, right? Really bad photo bash using a photo of Singapore here. But yeah, in the beginning, it was like, that cloud, you didn't paint that. That's from a photo. That's cheating. You know, you can't do that. And then, of course, everyone started doing it. And then it's like, oh, traditional media, traditional painting skills is dead because now we could use photos to bash everything together. And we could do it in a half an hour and blah, blah, blah. So it becomes a thing, you know, and all these new tools that come out, they all go through the same kind of arc. And now we're dealing with AI, right? And then the thing with AI now is like, all artists are out of a job, right? We have no careers and so forth. But the thing is, what I write here is that these things will all become tools. AI will become a tool as well. Right now, since it's in infant stage, it's really powerful. Obviously, AI appears to be more powerful than all these things over here. But at the end of the day, it is just a tool. It doesn't think, right? AI, the intelligence part, at least for generating this concept arts kind of stuff, is not really intelligent yet. It is just doing very high level photo collaging, right? It knows the fundamentals, like I said. It knows where perspective lines are. It knows, you know, basics of composition and lighting and so forth. So it's quite good, but it doesn't think. It is just building stuff based on whatever words you put in there. So ultimately, what makes these tools work well is our experience. Okay, that's why I highlight this. So for every one of these, I said, oh, artists are out of a job, right? 3D is going to replace all 2D artists and so forth. No, it hasn't. We're all still here and we're all still working. There's plenty of jobs. If these tools were able to just replace experienced people, then the industry should be full of new artists all the time, right? And people who don't draw or don't design should all be in the industry as well because it's so easy, right? Because you look at Instagram, right? You see, look at the comments. It's like, oh, AI is going to open up an opportunity for everyone to just become a designer artist. Actually, no, it's not because design is a lot deeper than the visual part of it. The visual side of it is the last result of it. The experience of what you put in, right, is what drives these tools. So yes, you could prompt a bunch of stuff, but if you don't know what to do, you're not going to do it, right? And we're going to get into that in a second here. So let's talk about the next slide here. With that said, right, let's go back to this slide real quick. With this said, with these tools available, you do have to upgrade your skills. Just like I said about Photoshop, ZBrush, 3D, Photo Bash, and so forth, we have to adapt to these tools. You cannot completely abandon it, right? If you don't use Photoshop or digital media to do work now, you're gonna fall behind. If you're not sculpting with ZBrush or with Blender, you're gonna fall behind as well, right? There are traditional sculpting still around, especially in the VFX film side of stuff, right? There's still some studios are still doing it, but digital is much faster because you can directly 3D print it. You know, all sorts of benefits to that. And obviously 3D, I believe, concept art these days, I'm guessing 95% of it contains 3D of some kind, especially for hard surface type stuff, right? Photo bashing, it's kind of died down a bit, but the process of it still remains, in which most of us are still using textures, photo textures to put on top of our concept art. I do this stuff myself, right? So all these things we adapted to. AI will become that as well. However, we have to recognize what it's good at and what it could do and avoid those kind of things because you're just regurgitating AI content, you're not gonna have a job. And that's the next slide over here. Okay, we have to upgrade our skills. So the reason I put these three here is because, again, a month ago over in Paris, the portfolios I saw from the students pretty much was just this. And in fact, it wasn't even rendered as well as this. This is just AI content. So the reason why AI could do this stuff well is because it could source millions of this kind of stuff online. It's almost like an echo chamber of sorts, right? What the heck was that? Okay, let me after this slide, let me do a break here just in case my Photoshop crashes. Okay, so anyways, so the reason why AI could do this super well is because you could source a lot of content from the internet, right? More students, more people are doing this kind of stuff, and pros do this kind of stuff too. But again, huge difference between professionals doing these kind of big structure with the little human beings is very different than a student looking for work. Okay, we have to do actual design content. This stuff is fun to do. Now, I have this kind of stuff in my portfolio as well, but they really don't have that much content. What essentially these things boils down to is big giant shape, okay, little figures, yeah, little figures, big giant shape, little figures. So that's it. It doesn't explain how these things work. It doesn't get into the nitty gritty of design. None of it, right? It's just form exercise, and saying AI is really good at it. So if your portfolio is just nothing but this, which again I saw a lot of student portfolios with this kind of content, I don't know what to say. I just like, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm gonna get any job in the industry because this stuff is used so little in the actual design process that it is kind of cool in the first week of a project, do some of these flashing images, and then we gotta get down to actual design. And of course, for character stuff as well, AI could grab millions and millions of this kind of stuff from the internet, so it could produce really good images, right? Because it could source from so many of it. So we got to go beyond this. We got to design stuff for a lot deeper meanings, right? And there's some mistakes in this stuff. You can see their hands have problems. She looks like she's got two different feet, right? But these are pretty minor. And for a game studio that don't care, this is good enough, right? All right. Anyways, let me take a break here before we jump into the next section here. So, all right, let me cut this off. We'll be right back. My Photoshop did not crash, neither did the recording software. So let's continue. So we just wrapped up the part about what AI is good at, okay, and some of the stuff you should avoid, like these giant structures and little figures and so forth. Again, that's something I'm going to cover a lot more in episode 111. But now let's talk about the core of today's episode, which is what AI cannot do well. Okay, so let's jump into the next slide here. So these are topics that it cannot do well, and therefore you should do. So got all the examples I'm about to give you, I have about 12 of them, are all from personal experience. These are things that I've experienced working with studios and seeing the kind of things that they need from us, right? And these are topics that AI really, I believe, AI cannot do well anytime soon. And some of it I don't think it ever do. So let's get into the first one. Okay. Cannot design functional interactions. So for all of these, I'm gonna give some real world examples, okay? Some examples from the entertainment industry, and I'm trying to include if there are examples of from our students, okay? So let's break these down. I'm gonna slow down here a little bit because this is actually really, really important stuff. So I don't want to talk really fast and skip it and then make it a very light version of it. So let's deep dive into this. So what are functional interactions? So essentially, it's things that actually work. Okay, so let's look at this one. For example, landing gear. Okay, the way this works, we have pistons, hydraulics, and all these things. All these things have to come together to make it work. Currently, AI doesn't have enough resources to grab this. Now, it could get if you look at Sora, right? It could get real videos and so forth. But if you want to design something from scratch that actually works, it has a very hard time doing, right? So, like, say, a landing gear for a spaceship that has six things coming out from the bottom of it. It doesn't know how to do that because it cannot source it. Can it be taught this? I don't know because this stuff is really, really hard to do. Um, for example, look at things like these cars, right? This concept car here, all the things opening. Uh, this form and this form needs to become one once it's closed. This type of thing is really difficult for AI to figure it out because right now it's just generating forms. To break these lines apart is also very difficult. So actually, this is why I have a let's make a page here. Okay, let's draw on this to show you what I mean. Okay, for example, we have a cube. Okay, and we want to break this, say like a car opening. Okay, this is not as easy as it looks because we could break this thing apart by, for example, we could open it like this. Right, say it's a cockpit of a mech, right? So we could open it like that. Okay, sure, that's kind of cool, right? We could also, right? We could also open it like this, or it opens up a like a Lamborghini, right? Like a gull wing kind of thing, kind of like this, right? That's kind of cool. We could also make this part open up. Little ladder comes in, right? Right, and this is just a cube, right? Infinite ways to open this. So to train AI to actually solve these kind of problems is pretty difficult. And all of it has to close up into the original form with all the seam lines in the proper location. So this is actually something I dealt with last year on a project because the company designed all these mechs, and this is a live action show. And they needed actors to actually climb into these kind of things, right? So these mechs have to open up, and all sorts of ladders and handlebars need to show up for the actors to hold on to, and they couldn't solve it. I mean, AI just could not do it. So, and these things took a while for us to do, right? Each Mac took about a month to figure out because there's the back view, front view, and things open, and all these little gadgets that need to be solved. So by doing that, I knew there's no way AI could solve this kind of stuff. It's just really difficult because it's really, really hard for us to do as well. Okay, let me hide that real quick. Go back to this slide. Okay, so here's some real world examples of that. So same thing like this, look at these intricate machines. This is a music note typing thing from probably from the, I'm guessing, early 1900s. Pretty cool. Things like cockpits of there's a SR-71 plane here, right? To have all these in the right locations is also very difficult for AI because it's too nuanced. But in the work that we do, we have to get this stuff correct, right? We can't just randomly bash a bunch of random images there. We have to get the stuff correct, right? Things like this clock to have these gears all work. In entertainment design, we don't have to make 100%, but we have to make it sort of look like it works. And even sort of is very difficult to do. For example, I have some examples from example. Okay, anyways, this is from Tomb Raider, right? They have this puzzle in which you have to align all these dials of light to turn something on. So this kind of stuff requires a human expert to design, right? This is functional type stuff, and it is pretty difficult to do. Here's another one with some, I'm guessing a wind puzzle or some kind with sails, right? Difficult because you could prompt this stuff to the AI, but it doesn't know how to do this because it just cannot source it, right? And here's an example from our students. So here's a camera, you see here, that you could attach this almost like a Nokia style phone to it. Look at the design execution here, right? How nowadays you can attach lenses to your iPhone, right? It's pretty much the same kind of concept with the older phone and with this Victorian era kind of camera lens. Pretty cool. Look at all these little baby lenses. Let me get onto my right layer here. Okay, look at these little lenses that you could put. Beautiful little design here. Yeah, good luck prompting this into the AI. It cannot do this. Okay, these things all work. And on top of that, okay, oh, check this out. Look at this detail here. How these little slide lenses go into these little slots. It's beautifully executed design here. And this whole thing could also be put away into this nice case, right? Look at this, right? Little areas, and here's another camera. So not only is this difficult to design and everything looks beautiful and it functions, it also has to then go on to this little thing to make it, carryable in the briefcase. Difficult stuff to do. And by the way, we've been teaching students this kind of design way before AI appeared on the scene. We've been doing this since we started school, 2009, right? The reason for that is because I've been in this industry. I know what gets designers jobs, especially students. Okay, doing big flashy stuff like the big forms with the little people, yes, it's kind of fun, but that doesn't get you jobs. They're actually quite easy to do, right? From a school point of view, yeah, we could teach that. It's so easy for teachers to teach that, but that doesn't benefit our students at all. This stuff here is really, really hard to teach, right? And it's also very hard for students to do, but that's why they have a job, okay? Generally, this kind of stuff, the harder something is, the harder it is for people to do, right? The harder for, I guess, most people to enter, the easier it is for you to get that job, right? And design is one of those kind of jobs. If everyone's just doing easy stuff, okay, then the field is saturated, and that's what the industry is becoming from student portfolios. Everyone's just doing the easy stuff. No one's really doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, in 2009, I knew the direction the school I want to take, which is solving these design problems, right? And that's why once AI came along, it doesn't touch us, right? These students all get jobs still, and they have plenty of work. It doesn't even make a slight dent in the kind of work we do because it cannot do functional designs. And I don't know how they could be trained to do such things, right? So yeah, so this is example number one, functional stuff. So when I was reviewing portfolios, if you're doing, for example, a big spaceship or something, solve it. Okay, how does a landing gear come out? How does a cockpit open? How does a little hatch doors open? Those things are difficult. But if you could do that kind of stuff, companies need it. Doesn't matter if it's feature films or video games. These are details you will see in these products. But very few students actually design that kind of stuff. Everything I see in student portfolio is just first level surface stuff. And form. How does it work? How does it land? How does it open? How does it do anything? No, don't know. Well, someone has to solve that, right? And in studios, junior artists are generally assigned to solve those problems. In fact, the fun, bigger, flashy stuff are done by the senior people, right? It's kind of ironic, but that's how it works, right? We get to do the fun kind of, we don't have to solve all the problems. And then that's thrown to a junior artist to go solve these. And that's why we train our students to do these really difficult, time consuming things. And these students in general, they get jobs right away. As soon as they graduate, they're lining up. And I'm not talking about small studios. They get offers from really, really good studios with really high pay and so forth, because studios know this is stuff that's hard to do. And again, AI cannot do this kind of stuff, right? So this is one example. Cannot design functional interactions. Next, okay? It cannot match exterior, interior, okay? Eventually, maybe if AI is generating things in 3D, maybe, but so far I haven't seen that happen. It can't even do front view and back view with the same object, right? So here's a example of in the entertainment industry, right? So the Falcon was designed in 1970s, but there was logic to it, right? Where the cockpit is and the little hallway and where they play the chess and with the blinded lightsaber battle thing that Luke was training on, right? This stuff all has logical placement because the director needs to know the spatial awareness of this entire structure. So did it design all this for the film? Probably not, but this section was definitely solved. Okay, right now to get AI to do a external and match internal, it can't. It just doesn't because it generates a form. It doesn't know what the inside or the outside looks like, right? You can only do one or the other. So here's a real world example of Notre Dame, since I was in Paris. So here's Notre Dame from the outside, and of course the inside matches. Right now, you can't prompt this, right? You see Sora do some stuff in which you could fly through a building, right? Sora's the new video AI thing from OpenAI, right? But as you notice, it flies from an internal, I mean, from an external building. Once it goes in, it turns to another building, right? Because it could only source videos that it finds online. It cannot make a new one and make the structure match, right? And here's some other real world examples. Check out this flying, this plane from 19, I'm guessing 1930s or something. Really cool little spaces, right? That little space is this little space here. I love this kind of stuff in design because this is what got me to the industry, right? I like industrial design. I like solving these problems. And to prompt AI to give you this design and give you the inside of it, not gonna happen, right? Here's a B-29, really cool external cockpit and the inside, right? So these are real world photos generally, but here's an example from our students, right? So from our work, this is a graduate of ours, Ian. He eventually became an instructor for us as well. Now he's over doing art directing at Riot Games, right? So he did this project in which we have this boat external, and this has all sorts of cool forms on it, and we have a perfectly matched interior. You can see here, here's the bridge, right? How many windows are here is matched perfectly to here, right? Everything's matched. So and look at all the level of detail, and here's the cabins below. You can see how the forms are matching up, in which you have the mask here, the mask is matched here, the window that you have here is matched to the window over here. You have this atrium kind of sun thing to let sunlight go through. That goes through to the second deck, which you'll see here. And then goes into the basement, in which you have that, right? This is a kind of a Assassin's Creed inspired vehicle here. Pretty neat, right? So right now, you guys can see it. You can't do this with AI. You cannot prompt something to this intricate level in which every layer of thing is designed, right? So it cannot match exterior and interior, but this is a critical part of our work, right? There's so many entertainment products out there that requires this level of design. And that's why we train this kind of stuff. Again, this was done way before AI came out. We've been doing this for the last 15 years because it is hard, right? Harder it is and you get good at it, the easier it is for you to do a job, and the more protection you have against anyone taking over your job. And that's why so many senior artists and designers out there, we're not worried at all. We always have work, right? Because of our experience. And our experience has to deal with difficult things. Okay. So that's the second one. Cannot match exterior with interior. Next. Man, this headphone's hurting my head. Okay, next one. Blink. Oops, go here. Next one, kind of related, is cannot combine multiple interactions. So this is similar to function, but a little bit different. Let's use the student example again, right? So what we have here is a sort of a castle thing, right? Kind of out there. This doesn't exist in the real world, but a student has designed an interesting function here using dams as a inspiration, and also these what do you call those things, like a Panama Canal, right? Where the water level is offset. So you can see the ships come in from a higher water level. They go into this little gate here, and then the water would then, or this gate would then seal, and then we drop the water down, and then it could then exit out at a lower water level. You saw this design in the game Dishonored. I think it was one or two, can't remember. In which they have something like this. The opening was, I think, it's Dishonored 2, the game. I think it was in 2. So you go into a boat, they raise the water level, then you kind of go up to a higher surface. So same kind of thing. So this has to do with function, but it's multi-level, okay, multi-interactions. Earlier for a landing gear, it is a self-contained thing, right? Landing gear or a car door opening, right? Even that is really pretty hard for AI to do. This is even harder because the same thing needs to interact. So the boat has to interact with the water, the gate has to close, the water has to drop. In fact, here's the explanation of that. So you can see here, boat goes in, and then the exits, right? Multi-level interactions. I don't even know how to prompt this into AI, right? So, because believe me, we have designers in our studio that tried using AI, right? When it came out about what, about a year ago, right? The Mid Journey and what's the other one that everyone uses, right? There's like two, three of them that are pretty popular. We tried, right? They even tried to like prompt some of this stuff. It just doesn't work. It comes out so bad. Yeah, in fact, it doesn't know how to do any of this kind of stuff because it's too difficult, right? Here's some other examples like what's that movie? Uncharted. This was also in the game, right? This is a simple example, but it's similar, okay, in which this crate fits inside a C-130. So those two have to interact. And then once it falls out, we have the actor that interact with that. So multi-level interaction. So you can always say, hey, I could prompt this. Of course, you could try to prompt a C-130. You could prompt a C-130 with stuff inside it. But do you have the experience to design this? That's what I'm talking about, okay? If you haven't done design before, what do you even prompt? And can it even give you that solution? I don't know. I don't think so, right? So this maybe, but this damn thing with the, I don't think so, right? You could try, but I think it's much better just to learn design because I don't think it give you that solution at all. Here's some real world examples of an interesting elevator, right? Multi-level in which the door has to open at the ground floor, it closes, it goes up this thing, then it opens on the top. Pretty difficult stuff to solve from a design point of view, and again, impossible to prompt, I think. Transformers, right? AI could prompt this right now, right? Because Transformers is quite popular, so it has a lot of things to sample from a line. Like you could prompt like Iron Man stuff like that. But can it actually make it transform back into a truck? I don't think so. Right? This stuff is difficult. This is hardcore industry design. In fact, on this project, when we were finished with the robots, we got called back about a month later, right? So we kind of designed to sort of work, right? And then I remember about a month later, we all got a call from this producer saying, "Hey, you guys got to get back into our studio because we're sending this stuff to VFX and the animators, and we have to figure out how everything transforms." And that week was hard, right? So whoever designed a robot, you have to kind of figure out how does it get into this mode. We have to draw these transitionals, how the arm folds and all that kind of stuff. Hardcore industrial design that I don't even know how the heck you prompt a AI to even do this. So maybe it has to generate stuff in 3D. I don't know. I have no idea. All right. Here's another example from the Star Wars days in which there was General Grievous. So Warren Fu designed it. It got approved by the director. But then one day, George is, I think, once the designs were already approved, he comes in a week or two later and say, "Hey, we want Grievous's arm to split into four essentially. So he's got four lightsabers. Make that work." Okay, so that's how does that work? How does someone with two arms suddenly have four arms? How does that split happen? So I remember Ryan throwing this to me. He's like, "Hey, Feng, you saw you and Robert Barnes, who is a sculptor. You guys go figure this stuff out, right?" So that's what I did. These are traditional drawings actually. So because it was so hard, I spent about 2 weeks figuring this stuff out. Not only his arms, his head, his legs, his hand, everything, because we had to send it down to IOM for rigging for animation. So we can't just give them a drawing and tell them to figure it out. This is our job. We design this stuff. We have to make it work, right? So yeah, this is hardcore industrial design stuff. And again, how do you prompt AI to do this for you? I don't know. Okay, so this is all multi-interaction stuff, right? So Grievous has two arms, it becomes four arms, and so forth. So very safe stuff for us to do right now that AI just cannot touch. Okay, next one. All right, design multiple elements in the same scene. Sounds similar to the previous one, but it's quite different. This is essentially your production paintings, right? Done a lot in the feature films. done a lot in animation. Animation, they kind of call these what do you call it, layout and stuff like that, right? So and video games, your AAA games generally do these. Lower tier games don't have the budget for this kind of stuff, so this is generally used in very high budget films, right? So production paintings and of course animation. So I love Zootopia. So here's some examples from that first, right? So this is from the industry. So imagine trying to prompt this, right? Which this none of these designs exist. Keep in mind now you could source this because Zootopia is out there, so you could source from Zootopia. But prior to Zootopia, imagine you try to prompt like a giant fox. I mean, let's just zoom in on this. Look how much stuff is happening, right? Because we're talking about multiple elements in the same scene, and all these elements have to work with each other and tell a story. So let's take a look. If you zoom into this, you see like little rats. This guy's eating a donut, right? He's kind of happy. These two dudes are buying. He's buying two donuts, I'm assuming, right? Kind of cool. That guy is reading a newspaper. Some parked cars. This dude's crossing the street holding a box of donuts. Here's a mom telling the kid to not cross the street or something, right? Pretty cute little scene here. And then all these buildings are custom designed for the rat city, right? Little tiny windows, really cute stuff. And then we have a donut shop, and then we have this giant fox running. Multiple stuff happening and good composition, beautiful art style. Prompt this, I don't know how to. Okay, it just doesn't work because you cannot source this kind of stuff. And to put it in a very well presented way. Okay, you could make one of these, you could probably make your donut shop, you could make your giant fox, but to combine into a single image, you can't. So you can always say, okay, I'll just prompt these separately. Okay, that's fine. Who's going to put it together? If you don't have the fundamental skills, you don't have the skills to put it together, then you're still stuck. Okay, you can't just show director like here's the mouse, here's the donut shop, here's the fox. Kind of imagine all together. They're not going to do that. They want to see it put together like this, right? Here's another one, which Fox coming home. Look at the amount of details here, right? This kind of stuff, you can see his little job is falling apart. His table's being held by wooden boxes, and his wires are taped. So many things happening here, right? He's got his little casino that I guess never was made, right, out of business. I'm not too sure. I think this wasn't in the movie, I think. So anyways, lots of little story elements, right? Here's one from Mulan. I love the production art from this animation. This is not the live action one. This is actually from the 90s version of Mulan. Just beautiful put together scenes. So right now AI could generate crowds and stuff like that. But if you look at it, it's just super clip art looking. Right? It's generic. It's not like this. Look at the art direction, the craftsmanship, the way the composition flows. This is beautiful, and this stuff is so important in pre-production because it inspires the directors to see the vision of the project. Okay, which we're gonna talk about later as we get to art direction. Okay, here's some stuff from our students, right? So keep in mind these are students. These guys, these students are nowhere close to Disney artists and so forth. But we push our students to do these things as well, right? So here's a Edo period, not Edo, but 1940s Japan, I think. And you have the little detective anime girl shooting a scene which someone's I think the story was they have all these artifacts, right? So you're photographing them. Complex scene, lots of things happening, and it has to look good, right? Here's one with kind of a haunted house. You have detectives coming in. This guy's like freaked out, holding his cross. Here's like a Sherlock Holmes looking character, right? Composition flow, spider coming in, got a dead dude, and look at all the composition stuff, right? I remember giving him art direction of, let's put some paintings of dogs going that way, right? This guy looking this way, these dogs looking that way, this goes this way, this goes this way, this guy turns this way, and then these things turn this way, this thing turns this way. So then we focal point is over here, right? This is very difficult stuff. There's so much stuff happening that if you want to prompt this out, I don't even know how. Yeah, I'm kind of repeating myself a million times here about like I don't know how because that's the truth. You can't prompt this kind of stuff out because you need to control so much elements here that you need a designer and an artist to do it. Yeah. Here's the last example here, multiple elements, right? A simple example in which imagine you want two different designs in the same place and both of these don't exist. You're like, okay, give me a cool spaceship with a cool vehicle. I don't know how to control that. Maybe one of it be cool, the other's not cool, right? So here's a picture of it. If it's real, you could probably do it. You could probably put a Lamborghini next to a jet, sure. But imagine you wanted a spaceship and a cool vehicle, and some people, and all of it has to be look good. It cannot do that right now. Okay, so production paintings are super, super safe right now. And these are actually the jobs we do. Actually, all these things, I think I mentioned earlier, are things we're facing as a studio to solve. Okay, they give us these design things and we spend time, human time solving it. Because, our artists, again, they try to use AI to solve some of this stuff. Doesn't work, and we go right back to the drawing board of doing things the traditional way of just designing things. Okay. All right, so multiple elements cannot do. Next one. Okay. All right, this is a big one. This is going to take some time to explain, and we don't really have too much what you call student examples because it's pretty difficult. Okay, we have some industry examples. We have a little bit of student stuff. I'll show you. Okay, so let's talk about topic tiered. Well, not drawing again. Wrong layer. Okay, tiered focal points and review. So what does that mean? That means when we do entertainment design, we generally don't give away the selling point right away. It's too quick, right? We want to build out that momentum. So here's a couple examples. I think Breath of the Wild, most of you have played. If not, let me just explain this. There's no spoiler here. Basically, you start out in a pool. You're Link, right? You wake up in a pool. You're in this kind of cavern environment. You pick up this iPad-looking thing from this device, which is over here. And then Link runs out into this little tunnel cave thing, and that serves as a tutorial. And then as you get to the end of the tunnel, the camera is taken away from you, and then Link and the camera flies into this open field that reveals Hyrule, and then you get the Zelda logo and so forth, right? So this is a designed experience, right? The pool of water, the cave, the tunnel, door, this platform. All this was designed to put the player into this world. So this is what I mean by tiered reveals. It's one, two, three, four, right? Levels of reveals that builds momentum, that builds interest. This type of stuff for AI, it doesn't know what that is. It can make big, medium, small shapes right now, but to design an experience like this, it doesn't know, right? And if you're just prompting stuff, you don't have this experience, you cannot do either, right? You can prompt a cave, but do you know how to design this out? I don't know. That depends on experience. So here's the Iron Giant, different type of review, right? This is gonna be a little bit spoiler, but this film is like 20 years old, so um, too late, right? If I spoil something. But anyways, Iron Giant, you guys seen this design, right? In Ready Player One, you see them show up as well. So in the about 95% of the movie, he looks like this, a really nice, gentle, giant robot. But towards the end of the movie, you actually find out that he is a weapon, right? This really terrifying weapon, right? His hands turns out, and all these things open up. So this is also a tier design in which we hide this reveal until the very end. So the audience gets a really cool reward, a shocking kind of alternative events, right? And that's pretty cool. And all this, and this is designed by Joe Johnston, by the way. Joe Johnston designed a lot of the original Star Wars stuff like X-Wing, TIE Fighters, and the Falcon, so forth. So beautiful design. This type of stuff is similar to Transformers, really difficult to solve without a designer at the helms here. Right? So here's some student stuff. Obviously, our students cannot do that deeper. Oops, what I hear? That level of deep design, but we do try to push them to do one, two, three tier design. So in this example, we have a casino. So you can see we narrow the passage here. Then we have left and right branching experience, right? Smaller details to the left and right. We have a central core selling point here. This is the major reveal. So we essentially have level one, level two, and level three reveals, giving the player, if this is a video game, a very nice way to get to this point. So they always have a visual interest, but they all always know what the main selling point is. Right? Here's another one by the same designer. This is Matavi. She's doing quite well. I think she's also working at Riot, doing stuff at Riot. Anyway, so small path that could lead to the left, to the right, and then we have the central reveal over here. Okay, so and if you go to this side, lots of little visual interest to break up the forms to give the players a lot of choices to where to go. Okay, so all this stuff takes time and takes experience to design. And these are students, these are not even professionals. And it takes them a long time, a lot of guidance from us, from instructors to help them. So that's why I say this kind of design school is hard to do because it takes a lot of time from our teachers to guide them on this. We're not doing just visual things, painting a cool big giant tower and how to light it. Well, that stuff is somewhat easy. This stuff is hard, okay? And because it's hard, like I mentioned earlier, you're pretty safe, okay, from AI doing anything. It cannot touch any of this kind of stuff. Okay, far from it. Okay, let me delete this layer so I have a fresh new layer. Okay, next one. Refine design detail. This probably most of you guys are experienced yourself, right? Design is not just about the form itself. Once you find the form, you have to refine it. And right now, there is no tool available on the AI side for you to refine, right? Let's look at the real world first. Here's an Audi R8, one of my favorite cars. So Audi loves to use a circular motif as their design. So you can see how fine the details becomes, right? Here's the shift area, right? Look at this beautiful, right? Everything here is designed. How long this little button is versus this line, how curved is that curve there, right? That shape, is it a square? Is it a slight concave? All this stuff require designers to do. And look at this one. Here's some AC controls here, beautiful forms here. Here's a door. This is design refinement. And right now, again, for the millionth time, how do you even prompt this? How do you design this to be one of which is the exterior interior has to match? You cannot do that in the first place. And then it has to refine details to this level of for beauty. Okay, and that takes experience to do. There's aren't tools available for that. So here's some industry examples. Right, here's Oblivion. This is designed by Daniel Simon. Right, the Oblivion bubble ship. Look at the level of detail that's inside. Right, somebody put this together. Daniel Simon and his team. Right, built design all this. The recent Dune movie. Right, over in Paris, we had George Hall who designed the helicopter thing. Right, the dragonfly looking thing. Watch the film. The interior is really believable. In fact, you watch the interviews with the actors, they say once when they climb into the set, they felt like this vehicle was real. Okay, that stuff was all designed by experienced designers. Here's some feedback. This is my own 3D stuff that I was working with a 3D artist. The amount of feedback, right? Give you guys a little bit behind the scenes of how much refinement we have to do on designs. So here's it's a flying kind of retro ship, and my feedback to the 3D artist, right? Getting the curve lines to flow correctly. Here we have, for example, look at these minor things, right? How the intake should be. So I want to curve versus having it. No, I want to stop here versus a curve. Look at this window. The original 3D has a window curve that goes like that, but we want to accelerate that curve so it's more of a beautiful form, right? This is what design refinement is, right? Here's the previous wing. Let me see here. Okay, here you can see here, this wing, little tiny thing, is a form like this, but we want to add a little bit of a curve here to make that just more beautiful looking. Okay, tiny little adjustments, but this is what design is, right? Design comes down to balancing your proportions, which I mentioned many times in design cinema, and it goes from big proportions down to the very very small proportions. So, and look at all this feedback, right? How do you refine this with AI? It gives you one solution, and that's pretty much it, and it can prompt you to maybe give you another one. But in terms of this level of adjustments, currently there's no tools for you to do that. Okay, look at all this. Look at all this refinement, right? The original 3D was like this. I want to do this little kind of thing curved out to be more aerodynamic looking. Here's some examples from our students. So this level of design, again, is very, very detailed. Everything is balanced. Students spend quite a bit of time adjusting all the forms to make it look nice. Here's Ian's work again. Here's a kind of a big samurai boss looking character. Look at the functional stuff and the level of detail that's here. Look at this thing. It's beautiful, right? These little poison arrows, I think, or something, right, that opens up from the head here, and these things flaps open. So that's why this guy is an art director over at Riot Games, right? This is the stuff that gets you jobs, right? Big forms, all beautiful renderings, that's all fine and good, but man, that is not what the industry do most of the time, right? That's about maybe 5% of what we do. 95% of our job is doing stuff like this. Okay, really difficult things. Okay, next, AI cannot be consistent in specific IPs. So this is also one that we run into. Okay, so trying to put a new design in the existing IP that has very specific things. So I picked a couple examples. Let's start with Toy Story. All right. So nowadays you could probably make something that looks like Toy Story, but imagine prior to this film franchise coming out, you want to prompt a world of toys and stuff. I don't know how you could do it because the designs are so unique. This IP is so unique to itself that I don't know how they generate it, right? So this required a lot of designers, tons of artists working on this thing to come up with this IP. Same with something with the Japanese game Persona, right? This is a typical anime looking stuff, but it's got a very nice style to it. This is the game that put Persona back on the map, right? I think 3 and 4 were okay games, pretty niche, I think. But 5 came along and just blew up. This IP became a huge deal, for this company. So, but even from these rough storyboard kind of things, you could tell the flair of this IP starting to show up, right? Look at the wide angle lenses. Well, wrong layer again. Okay. Look at the wide angle lenses, the stretched out character, everything's kind of elongated, right? This becomes the style of this IP. You can see these characters are elongated, elongated shadows, right? And this required artists and art directors to pull off, right? So if you want to put a character into this type of IP, you have to train the AI to do this specific thing. And I tried it. I tried to put like persona looking characters. The only thing AI generates right now is just regurgitated versions of this, but it cannot give you new things, right? So if you're trying to make an IP consistent with this existing IP, it's pretty difficult. Another example would be something like period piece specific things like Titanic, right? If you want AI to generate something that's period accurate, it cannot do it. It doesn't have enough source. You'll always have mistakes. And this is something we ran into in the studio. We had a project that dealt with history, right? A specific time in history. And we thought, hey, maybe AI could save some time by generating some buildings and streets and so forth. But when it generated this stuff, it's unusable because there's so many mistakes in it. AI could give you a rough kind of a time period, say it's 1940s prohibition or something. It kind of gets the period looking correct, but then like the street light is incorrect, the car is incorrect, right? Some of the details incorrect because it doesn't have enough training to know specifically, like 19, for example, 1940, right? You need, everything exists only in this time period. It can't, right? Titanic, for example, is very time specific. Everything has to be accurate to the ship. So you need production designers. Not only is the sets correct, the fashion, the material, everything has to be correct. So if you have an IP like this, you want AI to kind of design this. It could probably only give you suggestive stuff, but actual usable things, not really. Okay, and that's why we don't have student stuff in here because our this is the very difficult stuff. So we don't teach this high level of designs in our school here. So this is our industry examples. Okay, next one. Okay. So another thing that we ran into quite a bit, okay, which is you cannot integrate existing designs into or mix it together. Okay. So for example, here's a big scene. And oftentimes when you work on a project, you have character designers, you have other concept designers, and a director will sometimes mix these designs together. Okay. For example, we have this big scene, right? And imagine another artist created these characters, and directors like, oh, I like these characters. Put them in here, right? Replace these three silhouettes with that one, but in a back view. We could do it. That's easy. AI to do this? How? I don't even know how. You have to feed it this, and then it has to know how to turn this into a back view and then put it into this scene and light it correct. I don't know how, right? Where you can say like, okay, here's a scene. We want to replace these two vehicles with this one that came from the vehicle department. Director likes this one, so we want these two replaced. Again, for us, easy. For AI, I don't know how. That tool is not available right now, right? Where this little scene here, we want to replace this taxi with this one. So not only does it have to read this thing, it has to know how to do it in perspective and put it in the proper scene and match the camera lens. Really difficult, but not for us, right? Because we have the skills to do so. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, this is another big one that we don't have student examples. It cannot embed deeper meanings. So this is high level stuff. This is something that junior artists generally don't do, but these kind of designs do exist, and I love this kind of stuff. In fact, well, what I've been doing the last year or so, besides just goofing off and doing nothing, I do help out quite a bit on the script level stuff, in which I bring in a visual pass onto the story. So here's some examples of that. Right? So I didn't work on this, by the way. So but I do something kind of similar in which is once we read the story, understand the overall story arc, can we embed some deeper meaning into the visual side of it? Most of the audience will never pick this up. However, it gives the overall IP or the project a visual, I guess, starting point. Okay, it's very helpful. So in this case, this is Arrival, right? Same director as the Dune. Okay, so this film, for those who've seen it, deals with the concept that time does not have a start or an end, right? For these aliens, they see time as I guess, like a circle. Okay, they don't see a start or end. For us humans, we see the past as a past, and we see future as a future, right? But to these aliens, they're all on the same circle. So they then decide to use circle as their main motif. So you can see here in the opening of this movie, the actress here is walking in a hospital. I'm hearing some sounds. Hopefully you guys don't hear these sounds coming from here. I think it's my dog in the back room here. Anyways, so she's walking in the hospital, and this hospital is shaped like a circle. Pretty cool. The aliens here, because they're alien, they're dealing with seven tentacles, which is pretty cool as well, forming a circle. But seven is a number that doesn't appear in most living things, at least on Earth, like tentacles, octopus, and so forth. They're always in even numbers because our cells divide in evens, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, and that's that kind of thing. Actually, it's 2, 4, 8, 16, right? So we get even numbers in nature, but so seven is a pretty odd number. This required a designer to do. Of course, then the alien language itself is also a circle. So this is pretty deep meaning stuff, but it's really, really cool. Here's a scene in Zootopia that I absolutely love. Simple design of a bridge, but this key art here, or these keyframes, is so important in the way the story is told, right? So let's go over that real quick, right, to talk about deeper meaning. So in this scene, this is towards the end, third. This is the beginning of the third act of the movie, right? So in the end of Act two, generally you have a downfall of your characters, right? Your characters start to question themselves. Generally, your team is broken up, and in the beginning of the third act, you have to put this team together. They solve their own personal problems before they solve the bigger problem. So in this scene, it deals with the rabbit and the fox basically coming apart, right? They were a good team before, but now they separated, right? Because I think the rabbit found out the fox was some kind of scam artist or something like that. Right? So in this scene, we have a simple bridge, and what's happening is the fox going to walk under the bridge and into the shadows, and the rabbit is going to follow him into the shadows. So here we are, both of them are in shadow. So now they're going to discuss the issues they're facing, and they're going to make up, and both of them are going to walk out of the shadow into sunlight and become a team again, in which is over here, right? So they're now on the other side of the bridge. So this is a really good metaphor of the story, right? They both kind of went under the bridge, solved their issues, they went to darkness, and now they're back into light. Beautiful, simple little design that requires a lot of experience to design. So if you're just prompting AI, you don't know how story is told, you don't have any kind of experience, you can't even do this because it's not in your experience, right? Here's another one that's a little bit more visual. So this is the rabbit, also from Zootopia. This is rabbit moving to the city for the first time. So the director here want to put this rabbit, you know, she's coming from this really beautiful farmland, right? And now she's in the city. So they want to make this experience kind of cold for her and also make her feel very small. So in this scene, everything was elongated, you can see here, right? To make her feel even smaller. And all the materials are muted, very different from when she came from the farm, right? All green and lush and so forth. So everything here is kind of like this muted brown, grayish kind of color. So you can see everything is just stretched out, including the wallpaper pattern, the brick, you know, this brick wall, the windows all elongated. So now she feels really, really small in this huge world. So these are deeper meaning designs that as a designer, we love doing this kind of stuff. But again, if you don't have the experience, how are you going to do this? Okay. And you can prompt AI to do this, but my whole point is that if you don't have the experience, you can't prompt it. Okay. Next one. Cannot do art direction. This is a big one here that needs humans. Okay, so here's a couple examples. AI is only a tool, it doesn't make decisions for you. Somebody has to have the experience to make those art direction decisions. So here's examples from the industry. Right? So we have Elden Ring, we have The Witcher, we have the recently released game Dragon Dogma. Here's Monster Hunter, Dragon Age Inquisition, and I just put Assassin's Creed Valhalla in here. So all these games take place in sort of a fantasy-ish world, and kind of dark. But they all have their own unique styles, right? You're definitely not going to confuse Witcher with Elden Ring or Dragon Dogma with Witcher. They exist in similar worlds, but they're all different. What makes that difference is art direction, right? Is it the sound design? Is it the animation? Is it the trees fluttered in the wind, right? Is it the texture, the saturation? Actually, it's all of that. And all those decisions were made by an art director or art directors to trying to decide which direction to take their particular IP into. And if you prompt all day from AI, it can just get all sorts of different things. But how do you actually control this? You need a human being to do that, right? To decide on the art direction. And that kind of decision is critical in sometimes the success of this IP because you're trying to guess if this is the right direction to take this particular IP. Here's some examples from our students. So our students oftentimes are given the same project, right? So we could challenge them. In this case, they're dealing with a book called the Jennifer Morgue Files or something like that. So all four of these are the same spec, right? On the script side, it's the same spec, which is a hotel room with this kind of device go hook up to your head. But notice every student come up with their own way to solve this. And this is essentially art direction, right? So if this is a real project, as an art director, we have to decide which one of these do we go for, and then how do we then continue to refine that. So this level of decision making is non-existent in AI. It doesn't have this part built in. It can only just regurgitate stuff, but it cannot make decisions for you. So this requires humans to be involved. Okay, and we're getting close to the end of it here. Next one, it cannot be individually unique. Okay, I believe these last two slides are pretty important for myself because I think as human beings, we create things because we enjoy the process of it. That's why I'm in this industry as well. I do this stuff because it's fun. It's far to do it as a human to be able to overcome these challenges, build up your skills, and ultimately make something out of that skill. That whole process is what makes me what I want to do, right? Makes it fun. And also, as a result of that experience, everyone find their uniqueness, right? So I put my stuff here. It's kind of embarrassing. I almost debated not to put my stuff here because I put it among some really iconic designers. But I put this here because I think being in this industry, I have influenced quite a bit of young designers out there who looked at my stuff and maybe are influenced from that. But look at these designers, right? Juan Jimenez here. They're very recognizable, right? Everyone had their own unique style, and this style is born out of experience. The more you're in this industry, the more experience, the more you draw, the more you design, you start to find your own look, your own shapes. It's kind of like art directing for yourself, right? Everyone come up with their own, essentially you're your own IP. So Frank Frazetta has his look, right? Sid Mead has his own look. You have H.I. Geiger has his own look. Here's the John Berkey has his own look, right? I think my sketches have a very Feng look to them as well. I love drawing and sketching. So this makes you unique. Now, if you go to Pinterest and type in like AI characters, just look at the results. You can't tell what is what. They're all the same stuff because it sources from the same source, right? It gets it from the internet. So you cannot be individually unique, and that's a problem because that takes out a lot of creativity out of these projects. Again, some projects probably don't care. They just want to generate some stuff. They don't care. But in terms of making, I think, unique products out there, you need unique designers. And that comes to our last slide here, right? Which is this has double meanings here. It cannot design human experiences. The direct meaning is that it doesn't know how to tell stories. The other one is a lot of these great IPs were born out of humans working together. Okay, let's look at some photos here. So, for example, in our school, when I started the school, we believe me, almost every day we get people asking, "How come you don't make FZD online?" The reason for that is because I'm teaching design, and design is really difficult to do in an online kind of a not an echo chamber, but a self thing, right? Everyone's just doing their own thing. I come from Art Center, in which here's a photo that I got online from Art Center, right? We work together as a team. Here's the instructor, right? Here's students. Look at the faces, right? They're laughing, they're chatting. A lot of designs are born out of this group collaboration of bouncing ideas. Some of the coolest stuff just comes out just chatting in the art department, right? How do you chat with AI? It doesn't have this human experience, right? And a lot of these things are just from our own personal experience. Like, hey, I remember 5 years ago I did this thing. Some other designer will pitch in, and then that forms the idea maybe for a story or a scene or a design, right? So when I started school, I wanted that experience as well. I wanted our students to be together. So we put everything on the walls, as you can see here, right? So everyone could look at it, and teachers go in there, and we stand on the walls and we critique images. Essentially, I'm just emulating what I did in school because I love this process. I think that this is what made me into who I am today, is what I learned in school, right? Collaborating with others. And that's what we did in school. So here's some behind the scenes I found on the internet. Here's H.I. Geiger sculpting, right? I love this kind of stuff because look at this, right? Then this is Phil Tippett, original Star Wars for the Cantina to build all this stuff. Here's a behind the scenes of the Alien set. This kind of stuff is born out of everyone, right? The sculptors, the lighting, and everyone contributing their experience together to make this IP come alive. And lastly, here's some photos of the art department from the Star Wars days. I love this stuff, right? We used to just we put this table together. This wasn't here before. We just kind of mashed two tables together, and we decided, hey, let's just draw and sketch together, right? So we storyboarded together, we designed together, right? Here's Ryan. He's still over there, doing the Mandalorian and all the new Star Wars stuff. Sun Jun. Speaking of Zootopia, Sun Jun's actually over at Disney now doing art direction on Zootopia 2. Derek over here is over at Pixar. He's been there, I think, 20 years. Ian McKegg, I just saw him in Paris, right? This experience is so much fun because so many of these scenes were just born out of us chatting. It's like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Yoda was, doing this on with Wookiees and blah? Hey, let's draw that out. Let's do it. Or what if the spaceship had this thing? Right? Okay, let's draw that out. I cannot see that with AI. I can't see me sitting in front of a computer and just prompting stuff because it's so not human. It doesn't have any life to it, right? Our experiences is what builds this kind of stuff, and that's something I'm gonna focus heavily in episode 111. Okay, so look out for that for next week. Okay, Here's some other photos. And one of the cool things is afterwards, we design the stuff, we could go on set, we could chat with the people who are making this. Right here, some of the guns I designed for the Wookiees, hold them in our hands. This experience you cannot be replaced with a machine. This is what makes all of us want to be in this industry. And I believe there are studios out there, well, not just some, many studios want to continue this tradition. They don't want to make everything just machine, right? There are going to be those who do that, right? To save money and whatever their objective is. But I believe a majority of studios still want to work with other humans, and especially with designers, especially in the pre-production phase, right? Designers, script writers, stuff. So AI which has become a tool to assist these people, but we still want everybody together working on it, right? So here's a photo I took on my camera that I took of June practicing lightsaber battle with McKeg, right? I think they're talking about sticking a lightsaber through someone's eyeball and how to actually board that out, how to art direct that sequence. So look at this moment. This is how a lot of these products were born. Okay, they're not born out of just typing a bunch of stuff in front of a computer. They're chatted, they're acted out, they're discussed, right? Some ideas are thrown away. Sometimes I pitch an idea and then Ryan will be like, "That's so dumb," right? That's fun. That's what makes our job so interesting, right? So AI can never replace that because it is not human. Okay, so lastly, to wrap up here, so can your portfolio solve these topics, right? Today I give you guys 12 examples. The last two, I guess, is just human, right? But these top 10 things do you have? And unfortunately, in the portfolios I'm seeing in the last 5 years or so, very, very few students have these kind of things in their portfolios. Everything nowadays is just regurgitated, and I mentioned that earlier. Big form, small character, big form, small character, big form, small, everything. There's literally portfolios I've seen that students show me that 100% of their portfolio, here, I'll just draw it here, is, all right, let me get a bigger brush here. I'm talking about 100% of the portfolio is big thing, some kind, and a little dude. Next image, big thing of some kind, little dude. Okay, can replace a big castle, big spaceship, big alien structure. Doesn't matter. It's big and there's a little guy. Seriously, 100% of the portfolio was this. And at the end, it's like, what are you doing? What does the portfolio actually do? It's not entertaining me. There's no design really. It's just a form exercise. It's not content. So if you look at our student work, which I'll show you a couple before I end it here, okay? What something we do at the school is we do everything at human scale. That means if you're a human here, okay, we try to design around the circle, okay? Things you see at this level, okay? Rarely we break into maybe this big, okay, biggest size of a room or a church, something this big. And very rarely do we get into big space like this. But most of our designs are solved here because I know to design at this level, it's hard. To design this level, you have to solve a lot of these problems, right? You're designing at this level, you don't have to solve any of these problems. Okay, it's just that's why it's easy. Okay, that's why everybody does it, and that's why AI could do it because it's sourcing from everybody's stuff. Okay, so if you want to start practicing this kind of stuff, maybe can consider doing this, right? So I'll show you a couple of some portfolio stuff that we have here, right? If you look at this, I have a couple of these from because I'm putting together the Foundation 3 book. Maybe one of these will get this actually made and produced. Anyways, if you look at this is you can immediately tell AI can't do any of this kind of stuff, right? So it's just beautiful stuff. I'll quickly go through these. Look how fun this stuff is, right? The level of detail, the storytelling, the form language, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, right away I could tell it's human made, right? Look at these vehicles, talking about internal, external views and functions and all these kind of stuff. These students are solving, and that's why they have jobs and they don't have to worry about being replaced by AI. Right? Here's a couple more. Uh, yeah, just beautiful stuff here. None of it is doable by AI. Look at all these form explorations, exteriors, interiors, nice stuff. Here's another one. Love this style here. There's a couple more. All right. Jake Zetter. So this guy, he came in just so-so, I think, when he first came to school. By the mid of second term, he started to accelerate really, really fast. And by third term, this is the kind of stuff he was doing third term. Again, look at functional designs, human level stuff, beautiful work. And then he was able to get a job at Gearbox right out of school. I mean, that's a big AAA studio, and he got in right out of school. So pretty impressive, right? So it's because he's got real design stuff, right? He jumped on the Borderlands games. They do what the Tiny Tina and those kind of games. So, but pretty cool stuff because he's doing difficult design things. And again, this kind of content I did not see. Actually, I did not see a single one when I was in Paris. That takes it to this level. everything was just big form, tiny guy, big form, tiny people. I got kind of tired of it, but I stopped reviewing. It's like none of this stuff is interesting. It's like, okay, another big form, another little character, another big form, another character. What's there to look at? Okay, right. And lastly, here's one of these, right? So can AI do a thing like this? Maybe. Can it then solve this? Probably not. Whereas this student is solving, it's kind of like a Titanic thing. You got interior, exterior, it's just beautifully done industrial design. And this student also is out there doing pretty cool stuff. Who is this? Oh, I think this guy is working on Tomb Raider and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay. So that is the end of this episode, right? So let's see. Thank you, okay, for listening. I'm really happy to be back making design cinema again. So I hope you guys are now a little bit less worried about AI. But if you're doing things that I mentioned earlier, that you're not doing any kind of difficult designs, then AI will become a threat. But if you really took in what I have to say in this episode, maybe because I'm thinking about your portfolio in a different way. And next week, I'll continue episode 111, in which we dive deeper into how to build your portfolio to give you a good path to your careers. Okay. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. I'm really happy to be back. Hopefully, we continue design cinema for the next few years. Right? I really like enjoying making this product. Well, I'm getting pretty tired right now. I'm starting to stutter. Anyways, thanks again, and I will see you guys in episode 111. This is Feng Zhu signing off. Talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.